Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. Most likely, you recall Earnhardt Sr. as a legendary racer without fear, the individual who ruled NASCAR with unparalleled expertise and perseverance. Most people consider his tremendous determination and exhilarating triumphs. However, what if we revealed to you the truth? His last moments were made public in the autopsy report is far more tragic, more than anyone had thought. Let's have a deeper examination of the depressing details that many, I'm not sure. People adored Earnhardt Sr. for a variety of reasons. To supporters, he was more than a driver of a race car. He was a formidable rival known as the Intimidator due to his combative driving manner and unafraid mindset. Harassed heartily and passionately, always pushing himself beyond his comfort zone and never giving up on a challenge. His dark. The automobile number 3 represented perseverance, and his disposition encouraged millions to have faith in perseverance and laborious. During the 18th of February in 2001, while the last lap of the many people thought these were the Daytona 500, observing a new phase in his legendary career. Rather, the day would turn tragically, shocking the world and supporters worldwide. As the race came to an end, Earnhardt Sr. was in the center of everything. The Daytona 500 is renowned for its fierce competition, clashes at high speeds, and the last lap is where heroes are frequently created or lost. Earnhardt was guarding the lead on this particular day, racing from wheel to heel in a group of vehicles reaching around 180 miles per hour. However, racing at such amazing speeds is risky, because even the slightest error or interaction can cause catastrophe. During the final lap, Earnhardt's vehicle was in an accident with another motorist, resulting in his car to make a sudden right turn and slam straight into the concrete wall outside of the track. Initially, the accident didn't appear disastrous. The vehicle's safety cage remained intact, and the harm to, despite its gravity, the car didn't appear to severe enough to result in death. However, as enthusiasts of racing are aware, looks may be dishonest. The violence of the impact produced a basal head injury to Earnhardt fracture, a devastating wound at the base of his head. This harm resulted in immediate and permanent harm to the brain. Emergency personnel arrived at the scene promptly, and took Earnhardt out of the debris. They hurried him to Halifax Medical Center, the closest medical facility to Daytona Beach. There was tension in the air, was filled with fear as medical professionals battled to preserve one of the best in the sport myths. In spite of their best efforts, Senior Earnhardt was declared deceased. 16 p.m. Standard Eastern Time. The news spread around the NASCAR community and beyond, departing admirers, friends, drivers, as well as the whole racing world, heartbroken and astonished. Many people recall watching the news in real time on TV or radio and experiencing a profound loss in one's life, even if they were never introduced to the man. In subsequent interviews, several of his closest companions and other drivers found it difficult to put into words the startle. Longtime rival Jeff Gordon, and in an interview, a buddy stated that Dale was a fierce rival, but he was also a wonderful man. Upon learning of the news, I couldn't accept it. It had the feel of a kick to the abdomen. The specifics of the accident were thoroughly examined in the ensuing days and months. Researchers examined the wreckage, examined the video, and conducted interviews with witnesses to comprehend precisely what occurred. A lot of questions came up. Was it a racing mishap or something else entirely? Has it been avoided? Among the role of safety was one of the major questions. Apparatus. During that period, Earnhardt was not wearing a device that supports the head and neck, frequently referred to as a Hans gadget, which many analysts think it could have prevented his life by stopping the aggressive head movement that resulted in his death. During interviews, some drivers acknowledged they were worried about the HS gadget prior to the collision, but had opposed wearing it since it's comfortable and allows you to motion. Yet another veteran, Rusty Wallace driver, then thought, "We all knew the dangers, but none of us considered this Dale might experience this. He was really powerful and knowledgeable. Following his passing, for us, everything changed. The tragedy marked a sea change for NASCAR, resulting in significant safety procedures. For individuals who were present at that were close by or crashed, the memories stayed bright. A paramedic who was employed shared on the scene. "We did everything. Although we could, his wounds were simply too harsh. It was among the most difficult calls I've been on before." The mishap was terrible, but far worse than that, it was tragic. That Earnhardt Sr.'s autopsy findings. The specifics can bringing tears to your eyes. As soon as the results of the autopsy were released, the entire horror of what had transpired struck everybody like a wave. Dale had been harmed, a deadly fracture of the base of the skull, a serious and immediately fatal harm found at the skull's base. That single wound was sufficient to kill him inside seconds. This kind of fracture severs dialogue between the brain and their remaining body, halting vitals such as heartbeat and respiration. That wasn't all, though. The study found that he had 8 broken ribs as well, to his left. The bone that was his sternum in the middle of the chest there was broken, most likely as a result of the power of his seatbelt was tugging on him during the abrupt slowing down. His ankle on the left was also broken. There were also abrasions, as well as bruising on his collarbone and hip. For admirers and even other drivers, hearing these specifics was like receiving struck in the chest. How could someone be so powerful, so knowledgeable, be taken so forcefully and so swiftly? Later on interview, lifelong companion, and previous Larry McReynolds, the crew chief, described how he was astounded at the magnitude of the wounds. Upon witnessing the collision, he answered, "I thought it was that bad. Actually, I believed Dale would be all right." However, the autopsy revealed a different tale. It demonstrated the true brutality of that impact. The report also brought up difficult inquiries. Why did he not make it out alive when other people had left similar crashes? When the accident occurred, Earnhardt did not have a full-face helmet on, or the HS apparatus, which facilitates the head and neck in collisions. These making decisions was common in those days. The HS gadget was shunned by many drivers, claiming that it was awkward. However, when the autopsy was released, everything altered. Experts and physicians concurred that the HS gadget might have stopped the catastrophic fracture of the skull by halting his head from violently slamming forward. The report from the autopsy was so shocking. It brought more than just heartbreak, giving rise to innumerable theories that still elicit inquiries today. Among the most contentious issues that emerged from the seatbelt controversy was the tragedy. In the hours after Senior Dale Earnhardt's death, authorities and specialists hurried help pinpoint the precise cause of the issue. For weeks and months, TV stations, racing forums and publications were all selected. Separate the debate over seatbelts. Professionals were summoned to inspect the belt and the collision. Over slow motion, fans poured in. Replays of the last seconds, attempting to identify anything out of the ordinary. The sentimental people were burdened by Dale's death, desperate for anything, a cause, any explanation for why he didn't walk. Gone when so many others had endured worse crashed previously. It wasn't merely a mechanical query, it concerned loss. Regarding the broken belt and agony, provided them with a focal point when their emotions remained too raw to recognize the reality. In the center of the NASCAR maintained that they were devoted to learning the truth. They started a thorough inquiry. Concurrently, the court designated a neutral specialist in medicine. Dr. Barry Myers from Duke University will investigate the case very closely. Dr. Myers has a reputation for function in biomechanics and were unrelated Tony manufacturers or racing teams. The task was to dispel the rumors and provide a scientific response. Following examining autopsy images closely and accident information, Dr. Myers arrived at a distinct outcome from what many had anticipated. According to Dr. Barry Myers, at the Troops broadcast interview, Dale's head was injured in the collision, snapped forward, but his body stayed held in place by seatbelts. It is similar to striking a wall while traveling at full speed. The impact primarily affects the neck. According to Myers, such movement can rip the skull's foundation apart. The fracture was irreversible and happened instantly. This discovery assisted in resolving the technical discussion, but many fans didn't take away the agony or the perplexity. That the injury was genuine, and the broken belt was genuine, and the man they cherished remained gone. Later, in an interview, Dale's Richard is a team owner and friend. Childress remarked, "I wish we had every responses. We hoped there was anything that we could correct, but the reality is, the worst can occasionally occur, even when everything is completed correctly." Dale's passing startled everyone. However, prior to the trip was filled with fire, grit, and unrelenting effort. Let's return you to the beginning. Started realizing how difficult he struggled to get to where he was standing. Senior Dale. Earnhardt was not born into luxury or prosperity. He was from the little Kannapolis, North Carolina's mill town, when racing was not merely a sport but a lifestyle. Ralph Earnhardt, his father, was renowned in the short-track world for his intense driving and profound mechanical understanding. Ralph was the NASCAR champion, 1956 Sportsman Championship, and constructed a reputation for diligence, no-nonsense racer. For Dale, the young, the racetrack and the garage used as classrooms was a dream. He spent up observing his dad tunes engines and competes on everything is, absorbed by the ovals of dirt, similar to a sponge. His heart raced. Veins. Ralph was wary, though. He desired Dale to comprehend that achievement in. It wasn't simple to race, and he was uncertain about his son carrying on his tire tracks. Dale Earnhardt, however, wasn't the typing to get approval. His blood was pounding, and he was restless in his spirit. It never felt appropriate to go to school. And he skipped out of 9th grade. Out. He lacked a defined strategy, only intense urge to operate a motor vehicle. He was given his opportunity in 1975 when he debuted in NASCAR at the World 600 in Charlotte. That wasn't won by him, but he got people's attention. Even his style was clear at that time, assertive, bold, and self-assured. The type of driver who didn't give up, regardless of who he faced. Dale's, it took time to rise. He was not from finances, and occasionally to keep his car running was a struggle. He would work long hours and borrow parts in the store and go to racing in any case. He was able to. Later, friends recounted witnessing his trailer, where he sleeps, is coated in perspiration and oil as he was unable to afford a room at a motel. Each race was a chance, and each opportunity was either life or dying for his dream. That hunger caused, he is unique. It rendered him hazardous, and in the end, it turned him into a champion. Although Dale's legacy was being constructed on the track, his private life was taking shape in the distance. He had 3 wives. Periods. Latane Brown, his initial spouse, gave birth to Kerry, his eldest son. Then he married Brenda for the second time. G, the famous NASCAR driver's daughter constructor of engines. They had 2 together, children, Dale Jr. and Kelly, both of who would later play significant roles in his existence. Dale Jr. came next in his footsteps of the father, carrying the Earnhardt name into the racing industry's next generation. By 1982, Dale had discovered a more profound, more enduring alliance after he got married, Teresa Houston. Teresa didn't simply encourage him. She joined his racing empire. Their daughter was born. Teresa and Taylor Nicole would ultimately assume control of Dale Earnhardt, Inc., carrying on with his job long after he was gone. In interviews, those who were close to her, as Dale frequently stated, behind an aggressive driver was a very personal person. Man who had a deep love for his family. Childress, Richard, his lifelong associate, a close friend and owner, once remarked, "Dale, the track was all business. However, Atta was just a father at home. He cherished his children. He enjoyed being outside and heckerished using his hands. He didn't concern for notoriety. Loyalty was important to him. The fire was seen by those closest to him. It motivated him, but they also observed Thea Burden. Dale understood what it takes to succeed, from nothing, and he bore that burden alongside him. He raced for more than simply fame, however, for each blue-collar admirer who witnessed themselves within him, for each and every dreamer who was informed that they were inadequate. Dale's heritage was more than just his narrative. His engine was them. They provided. He had a purpose, grit, and an advantage no one could be a hoax. And perhaps it explains why his death struck so forcefully. Since it wasn't a vanished legend, that is. A man was there, who had scaled tracks made of dirt and crushed hopes to reach the pinnacle. And he accomplished all of this by holding on to where he was born. One more terrible aspect of Dale's life is what transpired following his demise. A court battle nobody noticed approaching. The collision in which Dale's life was among the most startling events in the history of sports. As the news firmly established, media sources and inquisitive people started to demand access to each and every detail. A few reporters, several websites submitted requests under the Public Records Law of Florida, which requires the publication of the autopsy on hard pictures. The foundation of their reasoning was openness and the general welfare. However, this wasn't the case with the Earnhardt family. Journalism. Exploitation was what it was. The Teresa Earnhardt, who recently lost her spouse in the most tragic and widely known manner, suddenly discovered herself in a novel type of nightmare. Defending his honor from turning into a spectacle for the public, Teresa moved quickly. Encouraged by a surge of fans' pity and indignation and among politicians, she appeared in court to stop the pictures from being released. She said that creating such explicit material, the public would cause unthinkable emotional distress to Dale's kids, loved ones and friends. She wasn't. She fought alone. A lot of individuals thought that although well-known people may reside in the limelight, their passing, particularly one as aggressive and intimate as Dale's, deserved to be given humane treatment and courtesy. The courtroom turned into a battlefield that is not limited to the Earnhardt family's sorrow, but for a considerably bigger query on the proper location of the line. The public's right to know is in conflict with, and the right of a family to mourn in silence. Among those who assisted in tipping the Florida was on Teresa's side, Jim King, a state senator. Profoundly touched by King presented the circumstances. Laws referred to as the Earnhardt Family Protection Act. The purpose of the bill was to prevent the public from viewing autopsy images. Unless a judge decided otherwise in Florida, there was a strong justification for their release. This was more than just Dale's act. Hard. It has to do with safeguarding families from experiencing their worst across the state moments become news stories. The legislation swiftly passed, propelled by extensive popular backing and the strong feelings connected to Dale's tale. During interviews given the circumstances, Teresa said sparingly but steadily. She stated that she never fought to hide anything. It was to protect her husband's honor and safeguarding her kids. It's difficult enough to describe to your daughter's father has passed away. In one interview, she stated. However, to have might be concerned that she could eventually see his body online, nobody ought to have to put up with that. Her remarks resonated deeply for many people, including legislators, who subsequently hailed her bravery as justification for the bill, went by very fast. Dale passed away, yet his death caused the world to pause and consider what you could do to stop such a terrible loss from occurring once more. Dale's passing was a tragic incident that rocked the fundamentally a racing world, but it has generated an important discussion on it was long overdue for safety. One of the most crucial lessons discovered, it was about the head on that terrible day. A neck support apparatus, also referred to as the HS apparatus. When the collision occurred, this device was not worn by Dale Earnhardt. This was created to safeguard drivers by restricting the aggressive movement of the head and neck in an accident. Professionals subsequently noted that if Dale had been utilizing the HS gadget, his demise possibly avoided, or at the very least decreased. The hands apparatus operates by the helmet is secured on the shoulders, straps, which stop the head from violently jerking forward or sideways when a collision occurs. This motion is precisely what leads to the fatal basal fractured skull that killed Dale. Following the collision, numerous safety experts, engineers, and physicians emphasized how this device's absence in Dale's the case permitted the aggressive whipping motion of his head, which was directly responsible for his lethal wound. The catastrophe compelled the racing community and NASCAR globally to reconsider their safety norms. Prior to Dale's passing, the use was not required for the HS device, and many drivers chose to avoid it because it felt uneasy or was thought to be not required. However, the facts were obvious. The gadget might save lives. Dale's death turned to become a potent metaphor for why safety could never be jeopardized because ease or custom. Conversations with following the event, drivers displayed a change in mindset. Jeff Gordon, a close rival of Dale's, stated in one, "Dale was a legend, yet he competed when safety equipment wasn't the current situation. His death caused the eyes of all. We all wear it because the HS device right now to ensure that nobody, someone else must experience what he did." This change involved more than simply equipment, but regarding a shift in culture within racing. The sport had long celebrated speed and daring, but Dale's passing emphasized that courage shouldn't originate from at the price of human life. Racing bodies manufactured the NASCAR-mandated HS device and additional significant motorsport competitions in the near future after. In addition to the hands apparatus, various enhancements such as safer barriers, unique walls made to withstand impacts, and improved seatbelts were made available to safeguard drivers. The death of Dale Earnhardt was heartbreaking, but it left a legacy that prevented many deaths. It compelled the racing industry to face its dangers and actually do something about it. The hands apparatus became a lifesaver and a sign of hope, instrument that ensured what transpired would never occur again to Dale. Another person. This difficult lesson was a pivotal moment. It changed NASCAR and safety in motorsports for all time. Dale Earnhardt's name is still recognizable, not just because his intense, athletic ability, but also his death for the safety revolution motivated.